Hello, everyone. I hope that wherever you are, you're safe and well. My name is Marilyn Zakhour. I'm the CEO and founder of Cosmic Centaurs, and we are a leadership and organizational development firm. Today, you're tuning in for a session of the seventh annual Cosmic Conference, a 3-week virtual conference taking place between March 25th and April 17th. Now, while we usually hold this conference in October, what is happening around us in the region made it clear that this conversation couldn't wait. To support leaders when they need it the most, we chose to bring this year's edition forward and convene this conversation now. Our conference is titled Grounded and Limitless, Leading Organizations That Survive and Thrive. And through the conference, we're hoping to support leaders as they manage this prolonged uncertainty and keep at its core the idea that being grounded and limitless is about being both clear-eyed and able to face reality as it is, but also continuing to build what's possible for the future. And to explore this, we brought together more than 15 leaders, experts, and academics to collectively make sense of what leadership requires in moments like these. And we did so across 3 themes. Week 1 was about enduring. How do you survive periods of uncertainty? Week 2 was about adapting. How do you evolve in response to change? And week 3, this week, is about thriving. How do we turn the lessons learned in crisis into a competitive advantage so that we may emerge stronger, more innovative, and better prepared for the future? In this week, we explore how organizations translate the lessons of crisis into lasting strength, embedding them into their core and scaling them into sustainable competitive advantage. As you listen to this, please share your reflections, questions, or experiences in the comments. And if you know someone who might find value in the conversation, feel free to tag them. And one last thing, if you find value in the session or the Cosmic Conference as a whole and you want to give something back, we ask that you take our survey. We're conducting research to capture how leaders in our region are navigating uncertainty so that others around the world can learn from us. Our team will drop a link in the comments to our Leading in the Arab World survey. If you have 5 minutes, it would mean the world to us. Now on to today's session, Riyādah, from National Vision to Global Impact. I am very pleased to welcome Rajit Nanda. Rajit, thank you for making the time to speak to us today.
My pleasure.
Let me start by introducing you, and then I'll introduce our topic and we can jump right in. Rajit is a remarkable leader and one I've had the immense pleasure of working with. He is currently the CEO of DataVolt, a tech scale-up pioneering the development and operations of next-generation data centers with a focus on sustainable technology. He has over 28 years of experience driving transformative change across multiple organizations, and previously as the CIO of Aqua Power and one of the founding employees, he played a pivotal role in taking it from a handful to more than 4,000 employees and scaling the company's global presence, overseeing its remarkable growth and innovation. Under his leadership, Aqua Power became a key player in the energy market, known for its commitment to sustainability and operational excellence. His journey reflects his passion for not just building successful businesses, but also for cultivating organizations that thrive. And today, Rajit, you're leading at the very interesting intersection at the forefront of Saudi Arabia's transformation, building a company with global ambition in one of the most critical industries of our time. From power and water, now data, you've been part of building the infrastructure that enables entire economies to function and grow. And through DataVolt, you're working to have an encore to what you maybe started in Aqua Power, but disrupting the data center market, helping shape the digital backbone of an increasingly intelligent world. And what makes this particularly unique and why we really wanted to hear your perspective in this conference is that you are indeed having to do this in an unstable environment, not only because AI in and of itself is an emerging technology and every week brings about new information and challenges, but also this is happening in the middle of rapid transformation, shifting global dynamics, geopolitics, economical uncertainty, and increased complexity. So our conversation today is really about that intersection, what it means to lead through uncertainty and still build at a global scale, and how leaders in this region are shaping global industries in the process. Rajit, thank you for joining us today. Let me just start in by asking you, how are you feeling?
Look, first of all, thank you for having me, Marlene. It has always been a pleasure working with you, your team at Cosmic Centers, and we at DataVolt, on behalf of all of my colleagues, enjoy a lot having those interactions with you. These are unprecedented times. Exceptional times call for exceptional behaviors. And I think the true test of leadership is during such uncertain times. I personally maintain a lot of optimism during this period of time, but my whole energy and the spirit of optimism comes from basically purpose and progress. The purpose that I have outlined for myself when I embarked on this journey, and the progress that I see for the team that I work with, the organization, and the wider ecosystem, and the impact that we try to create. This is what gives us the energy. During these times, I focus on the personal rhythm, reflections, discipline, working closely with the trusted inner circle, shutting out myself from a lot of the noise that's happening around. These are some of the key ingredients, the key tools that keeps optimism and that keeps the energy flowing during these times.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I definitely always enjoy speaking with you because no matter what is happening around us, we're always looking forward. You're not ignoring the reality, but still, I really get a wave of that optimism and that progress piece. So I really echo that. What is, of course, we all know what is happening around us from a geopolitical perspective, but beyond that or within that, what is making leading in the GCC uniquely complex at this moment versus the 28 years that you've spent in the region?
So, look, that's a great question, and thank you for asking. I would say that this region is unique in terms of the landscape. What makes it unique is the simultaneous transformation that is happening across multiple paths. There is no place on planet Earth where simul transformations across the multiple parts of social, economic, technology, and geopolitic. All of that is happening together at the same time. And this is the only place where you can see all of this happening. The other thing which is worth recognizing is the speed of ambition versus the institutional maturity. There are very high expectations that are tied to national vision in all the countries, whether it is Qatar, whether it is UAE, and not just Saudi that I represent on the private sector side. And that definitely, again, sets a very unique I would say, landscape in front of us. What we need to recognize in this part of the world is that the leaders are building and scaling at the same time. They are not relying on any legacy playbooks from the recent history. Yeah? And that makes it, again, the starting point of what I would call a very unique opportunity to create something that is beyond the old legacy that we inherit.
Yeah, again, a really, really interesting perspective. We always tell the leaders some of the first times that we meet them when we're working with them, we always say we are building the car while driving it. And what you just said really represents that. But again, as always, the voice of optimism shines through because what you're saying is it also, of course, it's hard and a little bit dangerous, but it also gives us an opportunity to reinvent things and not to have to worry about what legacy is bringing us, but to really be able to start from a blank slate, which is the opportunity to be found here. With all of these, moving parts around you, how do you, as a leader, navigate decision making with the multiple layers of change, emergence, and uncertainty unfolding all at once? How do you find clarity in all of this? What's your method?
Look, I think it's important to take a step back and understand a few things. From a leadership perspective, I think the first and the most important distillation that one needs to do is to recognize that clarity does not always mean certainty, especially in the business of leadership. I would define clarity very differently from the way the copybooks and the textbooks all define it. I would say clarity is all about having a clear sense of direction, which is grounded in your core values. So it is that directional security, it is that directional sense, which is what I call my definition of clarity, rather than the age-old statements that we always hear about clarity and certainty. Focusing on first principles when data is incomplete or data is ambiguous, these are all important in terms of how you take decisions, how you lead during times of uncertainty. Of course, when you make certain decisions, it's very important that those decisions are explicit in terms of whether they are reversible or irreversible. And end of the day, you need to walk out of every decision that you make by essentially having that sense of providing directional confidence and not looking for perfect answers.
Yes, you and I share a love for a good decision-making process, of course. And I really couldn't agree more with you. I think a lot of leaders over-index on trying to make the perfect decision, on having enough data. And it's true that if it was so easy, then we wouldn't need leaders, right? That the system could make the decision without us. And leaders always have to make people believe that that something is possible. This morning, a friend of mine shared a quote from Simon Sinek with me, which says, "Great leaders are idealists and optimists. They overestimate what we are capable of and inspire us to believe the same." I've seen you over and over again over the last few years of working together, quote unquote, overestimate what your people were capable of. I've heard people protest and I've seen you push through. How do you lead? It's one thing to make a decision. It's another to bring everybody on board with you. How do you keep your people open and agile when our, human instinct, especially as uncertainty rises, is to shelter and to shrink? How do you maintain that openness within your people?
I think what is important towards achieving the goal that you have just mentioned about working and leading people and keeping them open is to always project clarity in your thoughts and directions and not necessarily outcomes, especially as we navigate uncertain situations. I try to somehow in discussions, in deliberations, bring in that sense of normalizing ambiguity as part of growth. It is important that you empower teams with decision rights and not just instructions. You need to push for ownership and accountability. Ownership and accountability is a very important and integral part of working with people and keeping them open and agile at all times. And look, lo and behold, all of this comes together and continues to keep the people motivated. It gives them the sense of that purpose. You recognize the progress that you make together as part of your shared values and keep moving forward.
Beautiful. I love that. Again, you're someone who I always look forward to speaking to because you're a voice of that movement forward. I wonder if you can share with us a story, whether it's from DataVolt or earlier. I mean, you've been leading through the financial crisis, through COVID, now this. So I'm sure there are many, many stories of crises that where you were leading your organization. But I wonder if you can talk to us about a time where you really can identify how the crisis allowed your organization not just to move forward, but to emerge stronger as a consequence.
Look, I have so many anecdotes around leading through crisis and creating opportunities out of all of these crises. And I can go on and on for ever on this. But let me just maybe from a repertoire of all these anecdotes, pull one, which is um, going back to the times of COVID. During the times of COVID, when I was still with Aqua Power, and at that time, I was also taking the responsibility other than growth for the all the projects which were in construction. And we were doing about 15 billion US dollars of construction across, I would say, power projects and water projects across multiple jurisdictions. And then COVID hit us. And one of the most, I would say, challenging outcomes of COVID was the disruption to the supply chain. And we are talking here of hundreds of millions and billions of dollars of disruption to the supply chain while you are building critical infrastructure, and the government, who is your partner, who's your off-taker, is relying on you to build this on time despite all of these uncertainties. And you know rather than panicking, rather than I would say becoming a defeatist and just listening to all the noise around, the most important thing is to come together first with the people. You build that, you have a team of trusted people that you need to work with. And I remember in Aqua Power, we all got together with colleagues like Abed and Tariq and John and Anthony and many others. I mean, if I keep taking names, it'll run into a long list. And I worked very closely with my management partner at that time, Kashif, who's now also with me in DataVolt. And we formed a crack team, a crisis team that met together all the time, and we unpacked the whole problem that we were dealing with. The most important thing was work together as a team, understand and recognize the strengths of the different individuals that form that team, unpack the problem in front of you. Okay, don't look at it as the way it comes across to you. If you do not unpack it into smaller ingredients, then you will never be able to solve these issues. And unpacking helps you to go down to smaller elements of that problem that can be much more easily then solved for, whether it is rerouting, whether it is looking at alternative sources of supply, or not only in terms of the supplier world, but also in terms of the same supplier manufacturing in different parts of the world. How do you leverage on relationships in terms of airport logistics versus the shipping logistics? And there are so many different ways through which how you solve for these different issues across different jurisdictions, and then you repack all of them together and come out with solutions that are eventually solving for the challenges that we face. And that's how we did it over a period of 2 years. Time and again, we were hitting the wall, but that did not let us lose our focus, lose sight of what we wanted to do. Every time we hit the wall, we said, look, there is yet another way of solving the same problem. And through all of the pooling of the intellectual capital that was on the table, reaching out through to the network, listening to people, we were able to find out always solutions that end of the day allowed us to stay within the realms of all the promises that were originally intended in those contracts. And I think that was one of the best lessons on corporate crisis management, which I think we very happily converted into opportunities for us. And I can tell you that as I today navigate the last 35 days of the military conflict that is taking place in West Asia, all of this seems like a piece, like a walk in the park. It looks like a piece of cake, huh? At least as it stands today. When I look at the lessons learned, the opportunities that have been created, and all of these elements during those COVID lessons.
Yes, absolutely. Having now become old enough to have gone through a number of crises, I think there's always a lot of wisdom and lessons to extract. Obviously, if safety is assured, we always say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. We say that for a good reason. I think every crisis makes us better prepared, both emotionally, but also with a playbook. Like, we don't have the answers, but we know we're surrounded by smart people. We know that if we break down the problem to smaller chunks, we can figure it out. And we just keep pushing through. And I think confidence isn't about knowing the solution, but it's knowing that you can find the solution. And the example you gave us is really beautiful. And I'm sure that as a consequence of that, I'm guessing that was during Aqua Power days. Aqua Power as a whole built a much more resilient supply chain system that still benefits them today. When I introduced you to the three themes of the conference, you said, Marilyn, I think you should add a fourth dimension, which is cherish. Can you tell me why you said that to me?
Yeah, no, thank you for bringing this topic up, and I'm sorry if, in some ways, I am extending your theme of this year's Cosmic Center topic of discussion. Look, while I love the three aspects of the theme that you have built for this year's event, which is basically endure, learn, and then thrive as a part of the continuity. I think as a corporate leader, there is something which goes even beyond the thrive, which is what I call maybe the fourth moment at the fourth dimension of cherish. Many leaders often focus on what needs to be delivered immediately, but they forget to cherish the outcomes of what they have built, what they have put together, what they have been able to achieve. And within the microcosm of this cherish, I think it is important to recognize that what you build in this whole journey is institutions, trust, and collective belief. And it's important to measure your own leadership by what endures beyond your tenure. And that's what I precisely meant by cherish. I think protecting the culture and values as part of your legacy and not as byproducts is part of the whole journey of cherishing, looking back, and enjoying what has been built.
Yes, absolutely. I think as leaders, we sometimes can be faulted for simply moving on to the next task. And it's really important to pause and just take a minute to reflect and absorb what we may have accomplished. Actually, I'm very bad as a leader in doing this, and so I added it as one of our principles as a company, that something is never finished until we've celebrated it. And definitely, I echo with you. There's definitely a tendency to just keep moving, but pausing is equally important. Rajit, I wanted also to spend some time together today, not just talking about the complexity of the current situation here in the region, but also learning from you as one of the leaders that is building a global organization from here. I think that is a unique position to be in. With DataVolt, you have offices in India, in the US, in Riyadh, in Dubai, in Tashkent. I'm sure you've opened another office since the last time we spoke. You are leading a company across global footprints, and it means not only that you have to deal with all these different markets, but also you have to deal with different worldviews, different ways of communicating, of making decisions. And I think that's yet another added layer of complexity. Like, as a owner of a business in the region, I only have to deal with here. Whereas you have to deal with both here and there, and maybe even at this moment, an increased difference between the experiences of people across your various offices. What is it like today to build a global company headquartered in Saudi Arabia, launched out of the GCC?
So let me go back to the point that I alluded to right at the beginning of our conversation, which is the region offers a rare convergence of vision, capital, and execution speed. And that is really the uniqueness of working in the GCC region in particular, and the Middle East in general. What is also important to recognize inherently is that the GCC is no longer just a mere participant in the global business. It is actually a platform for it. And there is a very, very active push to scale out of GCC and to achieve that scale with confidence. Uh, so, what we look at eventually is about building a global company with local roots and local values, but with a global mindset. And that's what allows you to navigate through the rest of the world. Now, what we have, or what I have personally learned in this whole journey of, integrating businesses, integrating people, and putting the flag of Saudi as a private sector critical infrastructure builder across multiple parts of the globe, is that patience is a virtue in the GCC context. The long-term patience versus the short-term optimization being chased by several different parts of the world. That's a huge difference. What I'm trying to tell here is that the business model emerging from this part of the world is all about patient capital when you compare it with so many different other parts of the world. The other important thing is to recognize that there is a lot of relationship led versus a process led, some like a transactional based decision making that is embedded. And we obviously end up with different interpretations of hierarchy, speed, and accountability when you are working in this part of the world versus, for example, in Europe, and so on and so forth. So I think end of the day, it's all about making these differences, these tensions work in our favor by consciously managing it. And it's through the communication styles, it is through leadership expectation. When I talk of leadership expectation, I'm talking about consensus building versus authoritative style. All of these differences you assimilate in the way you deal with different parts of the world, with different businesses within the microcosm of the larger business that you manage. And once you are able to assimilate all of these different expectations, and you deliver a nuanced message across, where you set out the right direction, you are able to demonstrate, and you are able to be accepted as a leader by all the multiple cultures, the multiple facets of the business.
I really love what you're saying, because this long term orientation, in some way, allows you to be patient, but also allows you to show up over and over and over again, representing the same values, representing, the same story, so that you may conquer any culture, and that difference becomes bridged. I think that's a really beautiful message. And definitely, as I said earlier when I introduced the session, we've been starting to do this research around what are some of the leadership qualities that we see in this part of the world, that the others, can learn from. And this idea of that long-term orientation, the relationship mindset, and so on, are things that always emerge. And you're giving us a great example of that. Of course, you and I have often talked as well about, and for those of who are listening to us who do not know this work, although every time I mention it, I think, oh, for sure, this is old news now for everyone. But, I just want to talk about Erin Meyer's work in a book called The Culture Map. She's an INSEAD professor. She built on the work of Hofstede, who was an anthropologist and studied cultural dimensions, but focuses particularly on the work environment. And you've mentioned many of those, let's say, dualities between relationship task orientation, high context and low context communication styles, and so on. If anyone is listening to us and has not yet been acquainted with her work, I would invite them to do so. Rajit, you have to lead across cultures, both within your stakeholder group, but also within your employee group. And you've given us some examples of how you managed to persist through that. Tell us a little bit about how you've done that in terms of building the DataVolt culture. I remember one of the first things you said to me when we met is, look, I'm going to have I already have a multicultural team, and I'm going to have a global team within 5 minutes. And I think it's very important that we have a DataVolt culture that unites everybody across. Talk to us a little bit about how that experience has been.
Look, Marlene, I'll be very honest. If I have to do a quick look back over the last 2 years of the DataVolt people building part of my responsibilities and journey, this has been singularly one of the first biggest challenge that I had to encounter and that I had to surmount. I mean, I have to say that today I feel much more comfortable on where the organization is. I feel much more comfortable in terms of the landing space and how today we are functioning as an organization. But let me tell you what exactly was the challenge. The big challenge when we started DataVolt was that DataVolt started off as a data center builder and operator. Okay. And what was happening was that the industry at that point of time, this is in the last 2 years, 2.5 years, is going through a seismic change in the way the whole business model is working in the overall AI stack. And the AI stack has what I call the first three bottom layers of that AI stack are basically core infrastructure. Actually, the first two layers are core infrastructure. The third layer is semi-infrastructure. And then the fourth and fifth layer are really much more about software and much more about applications and so on and so forth. I can very quickly, just so that we don't lose our viewers and audience here, just very quickly name the 5 layers of the AI stack. At the bottom of it is what I call the energy infrastructure. The second one from the bottom is the data center infrastructure. And the third one from the bottom is what I call the compute infrastructure, which is basically the hardware, the chips that sit in the data center, that consume the energy, that work through the cooling systems, and basically process the data, provide that compute power that the world is so hungry, and which is the fuel for the entire AI transition that we in the world are seeing through. The fourth layer in the AI stack is what I call the large language model labs, the OpenAIs, the Mistrals, the Anthropics of the world. And they basically train and do the inferencing workload processing on top of this compute layer. And the last one in the whole AI stack is what we call the applications. The different, we have 11,000 startup application companies in Silicon Valley. We have a couple of them sitting between Germany, France, UK, for example, and Singapore, and so on and so forth. So that defines essentially the whole AI stack. And for us as a company, our business model was predicated on basically integrating the energy infrastructure with the DC infrastructure and the compute infrastructure, so that by being in this entire value chain, we would deliver what we call the lowest cost of compute to the world. That was the mission for us, which is to deliver the lowest cost of compute. And to be able to do that, you need to integrate all of these three layers that I just spoke about. Now, when we started at DataVolt, we started with a lot of core data center experts. Okay. And these are people that do not have the experience on the energy side or on the compute side. And likewise, we brought in a lot of people on the energy infrastructure area of specialization who do not have the same breadth and depth of understanding the data center stack or the layer of that overall stack. And the same analogy applied also for the compute layer. And the story and the challenge in the first 1.5 years for was, how do we integrate these teams so that they work with respect and harmony? Because it's only after they are able to work by recognizing the value that comes from one layer of the AI stack and merge it with their layer, we are able to optimize, we are able to bring innovation, and we are able to eventually deliver that lowest cost of compute. And that took some real time in building a culture where people started accepting each other, listening to each other, and seeing for themselves how working with these multiple layers of the team, we were actually able to innovate and we were able to deliver cutting edge and very unique solutions to our clients, even though we were a new company. We were a startup in all respect. And today, I can say, looking back, that a lot of success has been achieved in terms of harmonizing that culture, building that sense of respect, and making sure that the teams are not working in silos, but are working to support, help each other, and collectively delivering to the general mission of bringing innovation across the AI stack. A long answer, but I thought this was a very
I
interesting case
love this
in
answer.
terms of explaining the point.
Yeah, and you know what? I love this answer. I know you say it's long, but actually, what's really interesting is that the unique composition of the value proposition you're trying to bring. And as you mentioned, the fact that you explicitly have to bring together data people, so data center people, energy people, and compute people is actually a great analogy for what every single leader faces. But in your company, it is an obvious divide, right? But in a different organization, it could be between the marketing person, the salesperson, and the ops person, right? But we just so it's a really great analogy. We all face it, but in DataVolt, because you wanted to combine these layers, which maybe traditionally not a lot of players do, it was a very salient example. It was very visible, and it was almost like people were wearing a badge of I'm a data person, I'm an energy person, and the ability to make them see value in each other is really what we're all trying to do all the time, right? Is to get people to see each other's gifts and each other's superpowers and become the Avengers rather than fight each other. So I think that was a really, really beautiful answer, and your context allows to put a lot of color on what that experience is like. And Rajit, you also have offices in how many cities now?
Well, we are headquartered in Riyadh, but we have four other offices between Dubai, San Francisco, Tashkent, and Mumbai.
Yeah, I want to ask you a question because the choice of kind of global expansion and where to put offices is, of course, always a strategic one between where we offer our services, where our customers are, but also where the talent is, and creating a good combination of all of these things. Maybe just walk us through some of those choices, whether it's the US, whether it's Mumbai, whether it's Tashkent. Like, uh, if I was a leader trying to think about my global expansion and trying to be inspired by your expansion choices, what could I learn?
So let me thank you for this question, and I'm happy to share the perspective and the logic and the thinking and how we went about doing it. But let me first and foremost try to explain to you what is it that we were trying to problem solve for. Okay, so we were entering into a industry where we very quickly figured out that there was a huge shortage of talent pool. Okay, that's the first thing. Human capital was probably amongst any sphere of critical infrastructure business. The whole data center AI part of the critical infrastructure business is the one which has the single most shortage of human capital across different areas of specialization. Second thing is we don't want to be a also run company, also ran company. We want to be a pool of, we want to be a pot of high performance, high talent capital. So what we did is we quickly look at what I would say the DC and some of the specific skills capital pool that existed in different parts of the world. And what we did then is basically go about forming these, I would say, global capability centers that could then be integrated into the wider organization. And a great example of that was Mumbai. Mumbai allowed us to hit the ground running instead of waiting for 5 years, 6 years to put together a top notch, cutting edge design and engineering team or a project management team. We were able to put all of this together in 1 year. And when I say 1 year, it is really not in terms of the time spent in just hiring people. The most important milestone for me was what I call a 50% level of integration of the people that you hire. And we have onboarding processes that run for 1 year after people are hired. We do not outsource the whole business of onboarding. The amount of collective interaction that we have, offsites that we have amongst people, the way we design our offsites, which is all about integrating people. Uh, Today, we are an organization of about approximately 200 people. But within those 200 people, we are representative of 32 nationalities. 32 nationalities means 32 cultures. Even whether you like it or not, even within the GCC, even within the Arab world, I can tell you the culture of working with an Egyptian colleague is so different than the culture of working with a Saudi colleague, or for that matter, an Emirati colleague or an Omani colleague, and so on and so forth. So, at the heart of all of this was how do you make sure that you integrate? Because we do want to always keep that element of family culture within the organization as one of our greatest elements of motivation and team spirit within the organization. And therefore we worked a lot to right from the beginning to have a special emphasis on integrating different cultures and making them feel as that they are really value adding and important contributing member of the organization. Just a case in point to demonstrate everything that I'm saying. In our organization, using the word back office is haram. It's as simple as that. That word back office is a haram word. We do not have a concept of back office, front office, and so on and so forth. Every member may be located in a different geography, maybe with a 2 hour or a 6 hour or even a 11-hour time difference. But end of the day, they are all part of a functional team, whatever be that function, and they are all contributing as an equally important member of that functional team without use of words like back office and so on and so forth. And that's how we have worked hard over these last couple of years in integrating people. It's a journey that never finishes. The day we believe that even after 5 years, if you have the same conversation with me, if I tell you that we have successfully integrated people, I think that is hubris speaking, that is arrogance speaking, that is not the reality speaking. This is always going to be in any organization a continuous journey and a continuous effort. Human beings are complex, and when you deal with intellectual people, when you deal with high performance people, when you deal with ambitious people, you have to recognize as a leader that your most important challenge is this continuous element of reinventing yourself towards the sole purpose of integrating people to get the best out of them and
Yeah.
in the best interest of the organization. Thank you.
Yeah, you're speaking straight to my heart. Because a few years ago, I had a INSEAD colleague when we were studying, and he helped me to identify my personal purpose. And coming from a place like Lebanon, where our differences have sometimes led us to be disintegrated, I voiced many, many years ago that I think that one of the things that, I can say is one of the gifts that I hope to bring to the world is helping people integrate and collaborate. So you are really speaking straight to my heart. And I think it's, as a leader, one thing I've always admired about our conversation is that this is really something that you don't just talk about, but you put real effort, consistent effort, and also money behind. The offsites that you do at DataVolt, it's really wonderful that you've stuck through bringing these from 100 when we first met to now 200 individuals together over and over and over again. Like, that's really someone who's putting their money where their mouth is. And the work of integration is never done, but it's a worthwhile thing. So thank you for reminding all of us of this. Rajit, I want to talk a little bit also to kind of close us off about, you've had a very long career in the region. And one thing that we're really interested in is to extract the wisdom, let's say, of this place and what we can learn ourselves, but also what others can learn from leaders here. Maybe a question for you is, in your over 2 decades, maybe three, of working in this region, what has this region taught you about leadership that maybe you don't think you would have learned elsewhere?
I think there are some very interesting takeaways for me in terms of the style of leadership and the experiences in this region, which may not be that easy to actually learn if you are operating in a different part of the world. First and foremost is to recognize that the boldness in your vision is very, very important. Execution will eventually follow, but the boldness in vision is important. The second important lesson is to recognize that speed as a strategic advantage and as a key differentiator is always something that is appreciated and goes into your track record. And people give a lot of value to this. The speed at which you are able to execute is very, very important. And while trust and track record of implementing the strategy and vision. But they go a long way. But these are elements that the counterparties always will remember you for. I can tell you, even today, working in DataVolt, which is only in its third year of existence, invariably a lot of the counterparts, they go back and they talk about the quality, the dedication, the sincerity, and the authenticity of the track record that was built in my previous life in aqua power. And a lot of them take confidence from that, and they think that yes, we are dealing with a bunch of people. It's just not me, but it's also my management team. And they look at all of us and they say, yes, we are dealing with a bunch of people who are not only smart, who are not only clever in terms of finding unique solutions which are still reliable, but they are having a track record which is second to none. And I would say the last but not the least, in terms of what this region has taught me, focus on relationship, relationship, relationship. Relationships are very, very important in this part of the world. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And as AI continues to progress, remain for now one of the few things that makes us uniquely human. So they're not going away. Rajit, you spoke about speed, you spoke about ambition. As we mentioned, I mean, whether in Aquapower or in DataVolt, you are helping as a leader and through your organization to build infrastructure that powers the economies. That's a lot of pressure on someone, a lot of pressure on you and on your leadership team. I want to maybe ask you a personal question before we go to our lightning round. You know that this all of this takes a lot of energy, pun intended. And we always talk to leaders about their what we call their inextinguishable source of vigor, right? So we say that vigor is where you find your intellectual, your physical, your emotional, and your spiritual energy. I wonder if you could tell us, how do you find the energy to remain optimistic, to move at speed, and to bring everybody along with you for the experience?
Look, I think I go back again to my opening statement, Marlene, when I said that it's purpose and progress. The whole concept of recognizing within oneself that you are building something meaningful, which is there for the long term, which is there for the next generations, not just the generation, but even generations. This is really something that gets me out of bed every morning with full energy and as if I'm ready to conquer the world, while I act in a manner as if this is the last day of my life, which means I need to get everything done now, even yesterday, forget about tomorrow or today. And then, of course, the other important thing is personally, I consider myself as a lifelong learner. And if people take this attitude of being a lifelong learner and combine it with a general element of curiosity, curiosity for everything out there, then for sure your leadership capabilities, your leadership behavior, all of them start getting recognized, start getting being recorded, noticed, and you are able to bring really transformational benefits to people. You are able to bring transformational impact to the industry that you work in and to the wider ecosystem and to the society at large.
Lovely. Thank you for that, Rajit. Inspiring to all of us. And before I let you know go, I want to extract the last few pieces of wisdom through our lightning round questions. They're just 4 questions that we ask all of our speakers to answer at the end of our session. In some ways, you've touched upon them, but it's a good way to kind of pack up the learnings in the last 5 minutes. Are you ready for those?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Well, the first one is with all that's happening around us, what is something that keeps you grounded at the moment?
Look, remembering the responsibility that you have
Yeah.
for a vision for the people is singularly the most important aspect of keeping all of us grounded. And outside of that, I think from a point of spirituality, it is also important for all leaders to realize that in this overall universe, we are only one speck end of the day, and that helps you to manage the ego that comes with success for all leaders.
Mhm.
If you realize that you are just one small speck, and maybe sometimes not even a speck, despite whatever you are doing, it lets you be detached from that sense of ego and helps you to be very, very grounded.
Yes, thank you. A good reminder for all of us. I always tell my team no one cares that we exist and hope that it liberates us. Um, on the other end of the spectrum, what is something that helps you to be limitless, to maintain space for possibility, for imagination, for curiosity, as you mentioned earlier?
So I would say that there are two things that allows me to be limitless. One is from within myself, and one is the externality. So within myself, I would say the curiosity and the power of imagination that I bring onto the table. And from an external environment perspective, it's important to surround yourself with people who challenge you, who bring diversity of views, and who you recognize and appreciate as being smarter than yourself.
Mm,
Surrounding yourself by people who are smarter than yourself should not build any kind of insecurity or inferiority complex in you. You have to be, as a smart leader, able to understand how you can actually leverage of surrounding yourself with smart people.
absolutely. Thank you for that. You've given us quite a few, but if you were to say what is one leadership quality from the Arab world that the rest of the world can learn from today in terms of managing uncertainty, which one would you pick?
So I would say, look, patience combined with ambition is a very important aspect of the leadership quality from the Arab world. And then respect for relationships. I have emphasized a few minutes back in the course of the tete-a-tete chat with you about the power of relationships, and I think I will not be misplaced in once again saying that this is an important leadership quality in the Arab world. You have to respect the relationship. You have to understand the power of relationship. And maybe just as a tapering point in the context of this discussion, I would say that the important part of the Arab culture is also hospitality.
Mm,
And what I've seen in terms of hospitality, in terms of learning about the importance of hospitality in the Arab culture, is again very unique. I've been blessed to have two great families as my principals, the Abu Nahan family and the Muhedif family. And these guys have taught me trust. These guys have taught me hospitality, and these guys have also slowly and steadily over a period of time taught me the importance and the respect for relationships.
absolutely. Thank you for that. And the last question, based on our conversation or what you're seeing around you today, how would you advise leaders? What are the top 3 things you would advise leaders to do next week in terms of putting their companies in a better place to manage this period?
I would say that the first one for me would be that uncertainty is part and parcel of the game. Okay, so it's important that we learn to embrace it rather than be afraid of it. The second one I would say is invest in people and systems that outlast the cycle. And that's actually your path to creating that fourth dimension of cherish. And the third thing I would say is have a long term vision and be very consistent in how you communicate it. And eventually you will find the right set of people who believe in it and will execute it for you. And that's where the whole shared vision will start showing its strength.
That is great advice. And I'm sure a lot of people will benefit from it. Thank you for that. Rajit, once again, thank you for being so generous with your time and your stories and your insights. We're really very grateful for it.
Thank you. I enjoyed thoroughly the interactions, and I hope that our viewers, audience are able to take something out of it and shape their own leadership going forward.
I have no doubt that they will. In fact, thank you to anyone who tuned in with us today. I'm sure you found a lot of wisdom to take away. If you'd like to watch the session again, because some sessions deserve to be listened to twice, this will be available on YouTube, on our website in podcast format, or if you think that you want to share it with someone, do pass it along. And one last thing, as Rajit said, this is as much about hearing from our speakers as it is about shaping your own leadership story. And we want to do research on the topic of leading in the Arab world. We have a very short survey. It only takes 3 minutes of your time to capture the lessons of how leaders in our region are navigating uncertainty so that others around the world can learn from us. If you do have time for it, it would genuinely mean the world to us. We continue these conversations until April 17th. I hope that you join us for our next session, and thank you for tuning in. Please be safe.